If we turn back the clock to 2014, the landscape of the Premier League was different to what we see today. The quality of managerial talent was nowhere near as high, and while money was trickling into the league at a rate which vastly outpaced the rest of Europe, that led to a number of questionable transfer decisions and an overall feeling of inefficient squad building. One could argue that this was a transitional era in English football for the men's game, culminating with Leicester City's miraculous title win in 2016. The Premier League was trying to catch up to the level of play seen in other countries, symbolized by the All-German Champions League final in 2013 and the All-Madrid final in 2014. Part of the reason why this felt like an in-between period in England was the state of the national team. Throughout the past 30 to 40 years, there have been ebbs and flows with regards to the quality of the English talent pool, and the early to mid-2010s felt like a dry spell. If you want to read more on the modern history of the English national team, I'd highly suggest subscribing to Grace Robertson's Substack. Young English players who showed any promise at this time, whether it be domestically or abroad, were prone to get hyped up massively. This is a far cry from the current era, where England have so many high-end players to choose from that it's almost an embarrassment of riches. An example of a celebrated English prospect in the early 2010s was Ross Barkley. His emergence during the 2013-14 season gave Everton fans hope that he was the next local star to come to the academy. The goals he scored helped propel Everton to their highest point tally that year since 1987 when they last won the league, and got him a place on England's 2014 World Cup squad. The rest of his time at Everton was filled with highs and lows before a controversial departure to Chelsea in January 2018. His career had mostly stalled in the years that followed, before signing for Luton Town this past summer. At this point, it's looking like it was a brilliant decision. Barkley's earned plaudits for his performances in a deeper position this season for a Luton Town side that's held up better than expected in the Premier League. The Athletic had him among their best players from clubs in the bottom half of the league at around the midway point of the season. More than anything, it just feels that he's back on the radar within English football. This video will look at how Barkley's fared this season, but before we do that, it's good to remind ourselves of the player he once was. Barkley was a fascinating prospect during his time with Everton because his strengths and weaknesses were pretty obvious. The biggest standout trait was his ability to resist pressure and carry into space, using his skills and athleticism as a receiver when evading. This happened across the pitch and helped Everton progress play into the opposition half on a consistent basis. At his best, it was difficult to stop Barkley as a singular progressor. On the negative side, tunnel vision closer to goal was a constant problem. Barkley left several potential high-value passes on the table because he was too focused on getting shots off himself. This stuck out upon rewatching his matches, where teammates would show visible frustration with the lack of service. In certain situations, it felt like he took one touch too many before attempting the pass. There were also instances where it felt like he was a mini-second or two too late in recognizing the passing window. This might help explain why him and Romelu Lukaku never felt like they found a good partnership together in their 4 years as teammates. If there was one play to symbolize the best and worst of Ross Barkley as a prospect, it'd be this one. Off of a throw-in, Barkley creates space with a brilliant turn and then cuts inside. There's arguably an opportunity to make an incisive pass into the box either to the wide left zone or an ambitious ball near the 6-yard area, but he ends up taking a low percentage shot that gets deflected wide. This isn't to say that Barkley wasn't capable of making quality passes. In the 2015-16 Premier League season, he ranked 48th in open play key passes per 90 and 40th in deep completions, classified as non-cross passes which reach within 20 meters from the center of the goal. These are good numbers, but are a couple levels below the best playmakers in the league. As well, he didn't provide a ton of value through off-ball movements to compensate for the passing limitations, so it was harder for Everton to construct a very good attack with Barkley as the 10. A theory during this time was that Barkley would be better off playing deeper in midfield. His dribbling and carries would be accentuated, and there'd be less of a final third creation burden on him. There was also the possibility that his robust style would help transition into being an all-action central midfielder. If we fast forward to today, some of that has turned out to be true. A notable portion of the success Barkley's had in Luton Town this season has been based on his dribbling and ball-carrying talents translating in deeper areas. According to FBref, he's in the 96th percentile among Premier League players in successful take-ons per 90, 64th in carries into the final third, and 61st in progressive carries. It's been tough for opponents to get the ball off of Barkley this season. He can turn away from pressure into space and draw fouls with his shielding. When facing forward, he has nimble footwork to get out of traffic cleanly. Of course, he's also strong, so he can just bump his opponent out of the way to create space for himself, and use a change of pace dribble to surge through the middle. That footwork also helps him to generate the occasional shot inside the box during open play. Barkley can also be effective with his movements off the ball. You'll see him sometimes drag his marker out of position to help open up the middle. In transition opportunities, he'll occasionally pop up with a late run into the box. In particular, he's improved at making third-man runs within the middle third compared to his younger days. His goal versus Newcastle in their 4-4 draw was an example of him recognizing space to run into and generating havoc from that. Moving deeper in midfield has meant that Barkley's passing has altered to some extent. He's no longer asked to make the final ball, but rather greasing the wheels in possession to move the chains forward. He's in the 76th percentile for progressive passes, and 74th in passes into the final third. I like how he's been quicker to release the ball once he dribbles past an opponent. If given a bit of time on the ball, he'll often look to switch the play and even try some lobs in behind to the far-sided winger. Some of his best deliveries have come in these situations. You know Barkley is really cooking when he's utilizing a subtle dribbling technique to set himself up for an attempted big play down the field. While he's been better at not needing unnecessary extra touches after receiving, it still shows up at times, which can lead to frantic moments during build-up play. I also think that his between-the-lines passing is more hit or miss. Defense is the area where Barkley has probably been below average as a central midfielder. At age 30, with some of the injuries in his past, it's possible he's at a different stage of his career as an athlete. Also, with having a plentiful amount of attacking responsibility, he likely has to conserve some energy. It can lead to instances where it feels like he's a passenger defensively, with his team getting overrun in midfield. He can also be guilty of losing track of his opponent by ball watching during different phases of play. On the positive side, Barkley does show some moments of helping successfully trap opponents near the touchline and forcing them into a difficult situation. He can ably man-mark the opponent's deepest midfielder when they're building up. When the motor does get going, you'll see him be a playmaker on defense and generate turnovers through a defensive action. This can even turn into him fueling transition opportunities through quick outlet passes or him carrying the ball forward, which plays into his team's advantage. So we could spend a bit of time talking about just how good Ross Barkley has been. In the Matthias Soleil video I did from a couple months ago, I mentioned how impact metrics can help ballpark a player's total value. One of those is the Davies model, which uses public event data to measure player value. It has Barkley just inside the top 30 in the Premier League among those who have played at least 500 minutes. On the negative side, Hugh Klein's adjusted plus-minus model rates Barkley in the 21st percentile within the Big 5 leagues, with his defending being a major liability. Personally, I'm somewhere between those two metrics and believe that Barkley has been a slightly above average Premier League player this season. There are legitimate concerns with his defense, and him not being the absolute smoothest technician probably keeps him from being in the highest echelon of talents. On the positive end, his dribbling in the middle third and progressive passing have been vital to his team. I know that calling someone a slightly above average player isn't the boldest of proclamations, but it is still remarkable given the journey Barkley has been. Over the past 5 or so years, Ross Barkley was something of a nomad within European football, floating from team to team in the hopes of reclaiming his former glory. For all intents and purposes, Luton Town was close to his last hope, and it's been a near-perfect marriage this season. As a result, Barkley will likely get some mentions for being the best player who isn't at a Big Six club. There have even been faint whispers of a return to the English national team with the European Championships in a few months' time, which would have been unthinkable not too long ago. Ross Barkley and Luton Town needed each other. Barkley had to find the right environment to fully reinvent himself, and Luton Town with their minimal resources took a shot on someone who would hopefully turn his career around. It's worked beyond anyone's imagination, and while the odds are still not in their favor when it comes to surviving relegation, they have a better shot than most would have projected in preseason. Give it given all of this, most can agree that Ross Barkley has been one of the great feel-good stories of the 2023-24 Premier League season. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Here are the other videos I've done so far for the channel. I hope you all are doing well, and I'll catch you next time.